Differentiation is a complex process, especially because there are so many different pathways to achieve it. Before we identify tips for providing differentiated instruction in a remote setting, here's a quick review of the definition of this complex practice. Differentiation is designed into lessons so that it is a proactive response to learner needs. In order to differentiate, there must be an environment that supports learning, quality curriculum, assessment that informs teaching and learning, instructional activities that respond to student variance, and routines that support student independence. These are known as the general principles of differentiation. In other words, these conditions must exist for an educator to successfully differentiate. With these conditions in place, educators can differentiate the content, the learning process, and products the students create, and the affect or environment. We differentiate according to student readiness, interest, or learning profile. Differentiating instruction improves learning for students. Because there are many strategies that can be used to differentiate due to the varying needs educators address, we define the effect size as a range. As you work through this module, think about ways you can proactively design instruction so that all students can access rigorous learning outcomes. Tip number 1, tier assignments. Start with your lesson. As you add complexity to challenge some students, you've created a tier. Add some scaffolds to support another group of students, and you've created a second tier. Your original lesson is another tier. Now you have a tiered assignment. In a tiered assignment, each student is assigned only the work in their tier. In the Resources and Tools section, we include tutorials on how to assign different work to different groups of students in Seesaw, Google Classroom, and Schoology. You can also create a hyperlinked Google Doc or slides for your tiered assignments. Tip number 2, make your assignment adaptive. A student's response to a question can send them on a pathway of just-in-time learning. A correct answer moves the learner forward. An incorrect answer provides more practice, a hint, or even some reteaching. Students know this process well. It's the design behind many video games. Making learning adaptive is a great way to differentiate by content. There are many technology products that differentiate by being adaptive. Khan Academy is probably one of the most well-known adaptive programs for students on the web. District 303 has some adaptive learning programs such as iReady and Happy Numbers. However, you can make your own adaptive activities in Google Forms. Our tutorial in the Resources section will show you how. Tip number 3, provide content in multiple ways. Some learners are more visual, others have auditory strengths. When we provide multiple forms of our content, we improve access to learning. Provide different options side by side. Students may even opt to view more than one of your resources. In addition to text, students benefit from access to videos, podcasts, images, diagrams and models, and real-life experiences. As you already know, the internet provides a plethora of options. How do you keep track of it all? In the Resources section, we suggest using Chrome bookmarks as an efficient way to store collections of resources. Tip number 4, vary the reading level. Wouldn't it be great if you could plan with one text but provide different reading levels based on the readiness of your students? Many publishers have begun providing text at different Lexile levels to ensure all students can access their material. For instance, you'll find our district's subscription to Britannica School provides informational articles at different Lexile levels. We also have a tool that allows you to simplify text on the web. Read and Write is a Google Chrome extension that all educators and students use in D303. We'll be learning more about this tool in this module, but for this tip, we'll highlight the Simplify tool. Teach your students to simplify a web page or Google Doc to a less complex reading experience. Or use the tool yourself to simplify text and then copy and paste it into a Google Doc for younger students. When educators differentiate for content, the information and skills they access varies. When educators differentiate for process, various strategies are used that support students to make sense of their learning. Offering additional time, working with a partner instead of a small group, adding break and movement during work periods, and using manipulatives are examples of how we can differentiate for process. Whether differentiating for content or process, it is essential all students have clear learning outcomes, student-friendly instructions, and an understanding of what success looks like, such as through modeling. Tip number 5, use accessibility tools. Technology has greatly advanced options, ensuring accessibility for all. One example is the Read and Write Chrome extension. With Read and Write, students can have unknown words defined with both pictures and text. Text can be read aloud. Word prediction helps students spell words correctly, and the screen mask can help focus attention. This versatile toolbar can be used on web pages and in Google Apps. Chromebooks have built-in accessibility options that can be adjusted to suit individual needs. In the Resources and Tools section, check out the documents compiled by Sandy Green, our D303 Assistive Technology Facilitator. If your students are using Chromebooks, you'll be starting the year helping them to navigate their device. Make sure they understand how to use the accessibility features to support their needs. This Chromebook simulator, linked in our resources, is a great tool for you to prep for this. Teach students and their parents how to customize their experiences. Look for accessibility options in the settings of all the technology platforms you use. For instance, check out these options for how to use closed captioning and video speed settings in YouTube. Tip number 6, provide scaffolds. When you can't support learners in person, some creative thinking about how to use features in a tech tool might provide the extra support a student needs. For instance, Edpuzzle, the platform used to create this video, is a great tool for incorporating questions into videos, but it could be equally effective at providing audio notes to guide comprehension. In Flipgrid, some students may benefit from writing out a few notes on a digital sticky note before they begin recording their response. In the Ditch That Textbook blog, an RTI facilitator who works with struggling students explains how to insert sentence stems into Google Forms to support the students in written responses. As you consider the scaffolds you provide for students in face-to-face, chances are there is a feature in a tech tool that allows you to provide the same level of support. Tip number 7, annotate texts. Teach students to actively engage with text by annotating. Offline, students highlight key ideas, write summary sentences, define vocabulary, and draw quick visualizations to annotate. Students can use the same strategies when working online on Google Docs, slides, or on PDFs. See our tutorials on the resources page for different options. Tip number 8, use graphic organizers. Graphic organizers are a versatile tool for processing content. When teachers provide graphic organizers, they are scaffolding students to construct understanding. Google Slides provide teachers and students with a lot of flexibility in both creating and filling in graphic organizers. Worried about students moving organizer shapes around? Make sure you check out our tip on how to make graphic organizers interactive in the resources section. In our subscription of BrainPop, students can also make graphic organizers in the Make a Map option. The versatility of using shapes, images, and text allows students to access this task in multiple ways. Tip number 9, Sketchnote. Sketchnoting combines notes and visuals to represent understanding of a topic. The versatility of sketchnoting allows students to use text, pictures, symbols, shapes, etc. to make sense of their learning. It's a great quick option as a product as the versatility addresses different learning needs. While sketchnoting can be done online, it works perfectly as an offline activity. Once completed, students can take a picture of their work, upload it to Seesaw or Flipgrid, and talk about it. We'll show you how in the Resources and Tools section. Tip number 10, create choice boards. Choice boards are one way to ensure that students have products that address their specific learning needs. In selecting product options, consider the learning profiles of your students. For instance, ELL students benefit from products that require flexibility in language use. Students with fine motor challenges benefit from products that allow the use of technology. Students with a writing disability benefit from options to verbalize their ideas. Students that struggle with executive function skills may benefit from products with smaller defined parts that help them track their progress. Choice boards have been popular in the remote learning environment. Giving students a choice is empowering, especially in remote learning. However, it doesn't count as differentiation if all you've done is given students a list of things they can choose from. However, if the options you provide to students were selected to meet the needs of what you know about your students' readiness, interests, or learning profiles, then you're differentiating. It's a difference that matters. To raise the learning of students, we need to make sure the work they're doing is matched to a need rather than to a random selection on a choice board. Tip number 11, manage different products with product criteria cards. When you provide different options, aren't you making your life more difficult when it's time to grade all those products? Not if you use product criteria cards. Provide different options for products, but create one rubric. After all, students are demonstrating learning for the same standards. Then, use product criteria cards to identify what each product must have in addition to rubric criteria. Check out this strategy from the D303 playbook on our resources page. We've provided a lot of tips for differentiating by content, process, and product in the remote environment. However, we know that planning for differentiation starts with the data to determine what students need. Google Sheets is a fantastic tool for collecting and organizing data. You may want to spend your time in this module just on Google Sheets. There is so much to learn, and we guarantee that you'll be using Sheets to view district data this year. A differentiated classroom is built on the principles of a supportive learning environment, quality curriculum, assessment data, instruction responding to student variance, and student independence through strong routines. Teachers differentiate content, process, and products based on students' readiness, interest, and learning profiles. Finally, for differentiation to be successful in face-to-face or remote learning settings, it must be incorporated into the design of the lesson, a proactive response to the differing needs of students. Now it's time for you to personalize your learning with resources supporting these tips.